the movie Signs, Mel Gibson plays a character who was formerly a Catholic priest. And there's a scene in the movie where Mel Gibson's character goes into a pharmacy to get some medication for his asthmatic son. And while he's waiting on his prescription to be filled, there's a young teenage girl behind the counter that asks if it's okay if she confesses some of the sins that she has on her conscience. Of course, Mel Gibson's character, being a former priest, says, "I would prefer it if you did not." Oh, but it does not stop her. She begins to confess things that she has done, things that she said. She even asks him if certain words are curse words or not curse words, so that she knows exactly how many she has said. And I wish that I could say that in real life that this was something that didn't ever happen. But it does. And I'm a Baptist minister. I'm not even Catholic. There are a lot of times when people come up to me and feel the need to confess things that they've done because the guilt of their sin weighs on them so heavily. And there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, it's okay to be able to come and do that. And certainly my ear is open for anybody that wants to come and tell me things that they know that they've done wrong. But I gotta admit, sometimes these things get really personal, and sometimes people share information that sometimes I don't really want to know. Now, confessing your own sins is one thing, and like I said, it's something that we need to do. We need to do it to Jesus instead of to me, but I'll listen. But here lately, people have come to me and they're not confessing their sins. They're confessing the sins of others. Now, I want to make a disclaimer here before I go any further with what I'm about to say, because there's a difference in confessing someone else's sin and telling me information that I need to know. For instance, one of my responsibilities at our church is that I am over our youth department. And so I'm responsible for who takes care of the people in my youth department. Well, if I have somebody come to our church that's a registered sex offender, I need to know that. That is not confessing someone else's sin. That's information I need to know so that I will not put that person in charge of children. So, with that said, let me continue elaborating on what I mean by confessing someone else's sin. I had an instance happen a couple of days ago in which a man came to me and was encouraging me in being a pastor and different things like this, and telling me how difficult my job was and how it was important for me to remain pure of mind. Well, I appreciated that, but then he proceeded to then give me example after example after example of pastors that he knew, and some of them that I knew, that he felt like were not leading that kind of life. In fact, many of them that he confessed were guilty of sexual immorality, and some of them he had proof on. Some of them he didn't, but he just knew that they were guilty of it. And I sat there for literally 30 minutes listening to this man tell me about pastors and men of God who were doing naughty things. And the entire time I was wondering, what are you trying to get at by telling me this? I mean, do you think that I'm going to be that kind of pastor? Because let me tell you, if I'm giving off that kind of vibe, I need to quit now. When I was younger and people came telling other people stuff that other people were doing, we had a word for that. It was called tattletale, and nobody likes a tattletale. Sometimes our attempts to expose the sins of others is really an attempt to take the focus off of our sins. What? It's true. All of us are sinners. We've all got things that are wrong with us. And there's a good chance that you've got this one particular sin in your life that you hang up on all the time. And chances are that if anybody knew about that sin that you hang up on, you'd be really embarrassed. So the first level of defense in trying to hide that sin is to point out the sin of somebody else. That way no one's looking at you and trying to figure out what you do wrong. My advice to you, stop it! Don't do that! Nobody likes a tattletale. Jesus kind of says something about this in Matthew 7 when he says, "Judge not, that you be not judged. For with the judgment you pronounce, you will be judged, and with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. Why do you see the speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that is in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye when there is a log in your own eye? You hypocrite, first take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye. You see, we have some responsibility here to recognize our own sin in our life. And once we go to Christ with that sin and ask Him to forgive us of that sin, then we can go about trying to help others with their sin, not tell on others for their sin. So here's my advice today. Don't go confessing other people's sins to someone else unless you've confessed your own sins to God. And if you have confessed your own sins to God, go and help somebody get over the sin that's in their life. Love one another. I mean, how hard is that?